Bill O'Reilly in the Weekdays with Bernie segment. Tonight, back in 2011, I interviewed James Foley, who was kidnapped by pro-Gaddafi forces in Libya and held captive for weeks. Well, Mr. Foley survived that and then went on to cover the war in Syria, where again he was captured, this time by the ISIS terror army. This week, he was beheaded on camera by those savages. His family is devastated.
Jim just could feel the prayers. He was strong, courageous, loving to the end. I mean, we just hardly recognize our little boy. I mean, he was just a hero.
And you know from the videos, his last words were, "I wish I had more time to see my family."
There's no question the USA should do everything in its power to destroy these ISIS criminals, but there are some who resist doing that. The New York Times does not even want to call them terrorists. Instead, they use the words Sunni militants. Unbelievable. Joining us now from North Carolina, purveyor of BernardGoldberg.com, Mr. Goldberg. So, Sunni militants, Bernie, what do you think about that?
You know, I think, Bill, that many liberals, not all, but many, including many in the media, have a problem with the whole concept of evil. Maybe it's because the word has religious connotations, maybe because it's judgmental and liberals don't like being judgmental. I mean, they have no problem calling conservatives evil or polluters evil, or even the cops in Ferguson they imply are evil. But generally speaking, they don't like dealing with the word or the concept of evil. And this isn't some crazy theory I just came up with. When Ronald Reagan called the old Soviet Union the evil empire, liberals were outraged. I mean, even I remember liberals at the New York Times were in a frenzy over it. They thought Ronald Reagan was a Neanderthal. Now, the old Soviet Union had no freedom. They threw dissidents in jail. But still, they don't like the word evil. Now, I'm with you that militants is too tame a word. It's too weak. But I think even the word terrorists, unless you add a few adjectives to it, doesn't describe the savagery of these people. Hard news journalists can't call them in their news stories evil or beasts or savages or barbarians. I grant you that. But we need to come up with a new word. And I'm serious about this. We need to come up with a new word, a word that more accurately describes these savages than militants.
They're Nazis. That's the word. That's what they are. They're Nazis.
They are.
And that's what they do.
No, you know what? Let me just say this, Bill. You're absolutely right. And when, in the 1940s, the media referred to them as Nazis, everybody in America knew what that meant.
That's right.
They knew what that meant. But unless you call them something like Nazis,
well,
and that may be
we'll start to call them the Nazi Muslims or whatever. All right, now I want to ask you about YouTube. YouTube posted this beheading, and then they took it down, but they kept it up long enough so everybody could see it. That's a disgrace. What the hell is wrong with YouTube? Nobody should ever, ever post anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know the mechanics of YouTube. Yeah, I don't call these things machines the way you do, but I'm not much more sophisticated about these things. They shouldn't go up in the first place, but they should be pulled down as soon as possible. I don't know if YouTube pulled it down as soon as they knew about it or how that
they
works.
let it go way too long, and there are people who can regulate that kind of stuff. But I just want to make the point that
this is a PR machine for them. This is how they get there.
For the terrorists, for the Nazis.
Right, right.
Okay. Now, I want to make one more point, and then we'll get on to Ferguson. There are those on the right who don't want to confront ISIS as well. I mean, Senator Rand Paul, very, all over the place. Other people, libertarian, oh, no, let them do. They're not, we shouldn't get involved in all of this. So I don't want to be fair. It's not just on the left, but we got to kill all of these people, okay? I want everybody to get that. Now, left-wing websites read my lips right now. The United States has to kill all of the ISIS people, not murder them, kill them as the Pope, all right? As the Pope says, has to be done. Because you know why? They're Nazis. All right, let's get to Ferguson. 7.5-minute talking points memo, your assessment?
Well, first, let me state the obvious. I don't know what happened between the cop and the kid, and neither does anybody watching us tonight. But you and I, Bill, have covered enough hard news to know that there are times when cops cross the line, and there are certainly times when 18-year-old kids are more than willing to start trouble. So let's not jump to conclusions. Here's what I do know for sure, that if the cop who shot that 18-year-old black kid, if the cop who did the shooting were black, there'd be no national media in Ferguson. There'd be no live shots every 10 minutes. There'd be no civil rights establishment in Ferguson. There'd be no Al Sharpton in Ferguson. There'd be no nothing in Ferguson, because the civil rights establishment and white liberals look the other way when black people kill black people. If George Zimmerman were black, we wouldn't even know the name Trayvon Martin. The Justice Department, and you alluded to this, the Justice Department says about 13% of America is black, 49% of the homicides are committed by blacks, and over 90% of the black people who are killed by other black people. So while I am not saying that all cops are angels, and some cops do harbor racial animus, when it comes to crime, Bill, when it comes to crime, it isn't bad cops that's plaguing black America. That's not the problem. It isn't bad cops. It's black people killing other black people that's plaguing black America.
But I think most black people in the south side of Chicago know that and are screaming for help. And Mayor Emanuel and the police chief don't know what to do. But the media inflames this story, Bernie. As I said, the media is terrified to stand up to the racial agitators. Last word.
They are terrified. This is an important point, and I'll do it briefly. Members of the African-American elite and many white liberals have said that we don't put enough value on the lives of young black men. Well, they certainly don't put enough value on it, because if they did, they'd be out yelling when black kids are killing black kids in places like Chicago. But they're not.
Bernie Goldberg, everyone. On deck.